Boeing is one of the best examples of how the story of US-China relations is usually a battle between morals, as in, I do not agree what you are doing, and economic morals, as in, if we do not continue selling to them, we will lose profit and it will create a bad situation. These two types of moralities are not always aligned with one another. How does Boeing show this? Well, in the early 1970s, as the Vietnam War was beginning to wind down, even before Nixon went to China, many companies wanted to become friendlier with China so that they could sell products in the last great market. And Boeing was one of the companies that was spearheading this movement. Because the Vietnam War was ending, American manufacturers of weapons and stuff like that needed new markets to sell to. Most countries in the South, the global South, developing countries, including China, were the core market for these sellers. But as time progressed, this story continued as well. After Tiananmen Square in 1989, some people in the American government wanted to be very fierce on China and revoke their most favored nation status. But once again, Boeing and similar companies pushed the government not to do that because by the 1990s, the airliner manufacturer industry had only become two major companies, Boeing and Airbus. It believed that if it lost access to China because of the US government giving away the most favored status or taking it away, that Boeing would lose a lot of money and Airbus would get ahead, which would have ramifications globally because Airbus would be making more money from one of the largest markets in the world. Also around the 1990s, there was a recession, and so Boeing wanted to move some of its work to China because it feared if it didn't, it would have some economic fallout. Fast forward to 2000, and Boeing pushed for the World Trade Organization, and then fast forward a year later to the incident of 9/11, where Boeing stock did really poorly because nobody wanted to fly in planes anymore following the terrorist attack. And then again in 2008, China was one of the countries that did better during the recession because it wasn't as connected to the global financial system. And so it was the country that was having the best airliner industry. And so Boeing once again wanted to invest more in China. But today things are more complicated because since the trade war began in the late 2010s underneath Trump, Boeing has lost its lead in the China market, with Airbus now taking the lead. And also Chinese domestic manufacturer Comac is beginning to have some role, a very small role, in the Chinese market. And it also has began to sell to countries in Southeast Asia and perhaps even Europe soon. But that is still a long way off to see if it actually is a real competitor to Boeing.